Welcome back to Grimverse History, where we uncover the strange and forgotten sides of history. Tonight, we dive into the haunting life of Mariana of Austria, the queen so inbred that her own court believed she was bewitched. This is the story of a queen whose body carried the price of a dynasty's choices, a bloodline tightened for centuries, a face marked by the unmistakable Habsburg jaw, a child born into power, yet weakened before she could speak. Her court had only one explanation. She must be bewitched, not by magic, but by the very lineage meant to protect her throne, a royal family trying to preserve purity, and a queen who revealed what that purity truly cost. You find yourself standing at the far end of a dim corridor, cold stone beneath your feet, a hush hanging in the air like held breath. The walls echo faintly, as if they remember footsteps from centuries ago. You push open a heavy wooden door. The hinges sigh. Cold air brushes your cheek. A lone candle flickers. Shadows climb the walls like restless memories. The palace breathes around you. Slow, ancient, aware. Take a gentle breath. Let the weight of your day dissolve. You're safe here. Your thoughts can rest now. And if these quiet journeys through the darker corners of history help you unwind, feel free to tap like and subscribe to stay with us for the next night's tale. Now, just follow the sound of the story. Now, dim the lights. Let the hum of your room soften. Let your shoulders fall. Let your mind quiet. Let the past take shape. The air cools. The world shifts. Snow taps against tall windows. Vienna's midnight bells drift through the darkness. It is Christmas Eve, 1634, inside the Habsburg palace. A newborn princess has just taken her first breath. A child already marked by a lineage too tangled to escape. This is the beginning of her life, and the beginning of the Habsburg Empire's slow, silent unraveling. A child born into a dynasty that breathes inward. She is born on a winter night so cold and quiet. The Habsburg palace holds its breath, as if even the walls understand this. Birth carries something heavier than joy. Candles burn low. Midwives whisper. Someone closes a window too softly, afraid the cold might shatter the newborn the way it has shattered so many hopes before her. Mariana of Austria enters the world wrapped in silk and expectations. She does not cry loudly. Her breath is thin, almost shy, the kind of first breath that tells you this child is already working harder than most. Her face, small, soft, still trembling from the effort of arriving, is marked by angles that are not unusual for the Habsburgs, which is precisely the problem. The midwife sees the jaw first. That familiar forward thrust, as if her lower face wants to leap ahead to freedom while the rest of her stays politely behind. A family signature, some might call it. A hereditary complaint, others might mutter. In the Habsburgs, a chin is never just a chin. It is a diary. You can almost hear the bloodline folding in on itself. Generation pressing into generation. Uncles marrying nieces. Cousins joining cousins. The family tree isn't branching. It's looping like a confused vine. And now, here she is. Small hands, heavy legacy. A tiny heartbeat working under the weight of a dynasty that forgot how to breathe outward. Someone places her beside her mother, Mariana of Spain, who is exhausted but proud. Another foreign princess fulfilling her duty to keep the blood pure. Or as pure as a family can be after 2 centuries of genetic shortcuts. A servant fetches hot water. Another brings a cloth. The air smells faintly of incense and cold iron. Outside, bells mark the hour. Inside, an empire quietly takes notes on the shape of a baby's jaw. No one says it aloud, but everyone thinks the same thing. pattern continues. A soft truth wrapped in velvet. And that is her first night. Mariana's entrance into a world that carved her story before she drew her first full breath. A dynasty writes her future while she sleeps in a cradle far too ornate for a child this fragile. A cradle that creaks, almost in warning. Strange how a life can begin with a whisper instead of a beginning. The weight she carries before she even opens her eyes. The corridor outside her chamber is still. A draught slips through the stone, brushing against tapestries that hang too stiff to move. Somewhere, a nurse hums to calm herself more than the child. It is the kind of night that feels suspended, caught between destiny and obligation, between silence and prophecy. Mariana sleeps, but not peacefully. Her breaths come shallow, like a candle unsure whether to flicker or fade. The Habsburgs rarely produce robust children anymore. The dynasty is tired. Their blood is tired. But hope is stubborn, especially in royal palaces. It keeps returning even when logic does not. The physicians gather at dawn. They examine her with the same mixture of awe and anxiety they have carried for decades. The infant is quiet. Her limbs move slowly, gently, as if she's negotiating with her own body. Her jaw sits forward. Her mouth forms an early pout. Her eyes open, large, dark, observant. She looks at the world the way a child looks at a room full of strangers. Curious, wary, already a little disappointed. A court official writes a report. He does not mention the jaw directly. No one ever does. Instead, he writes phrases like characteristic features and the esteemed profile of her noble lineage. Royal language is very good at not saying things. The emperor receives the news with a nod. Another Habsburg child, another Habsburg face. Nothing surprising, nothing alarming, nothing new. The palace begins to settle into its usual rhythm. Servants sweep, guards march, courtiers gossip. And somewhere in the nursery, Mariana shifts in her sleep, unaware that her body already carries the mathematics of collapse, when a bloodline speaks louder than a cry. Morning slips into the palace quietly, as if it, too, has learned to be cautious around the Habsburgs. Light crawls across the stone floors, a thin warmth, hesitant, like it's asking permission to enter. The cradle sits in the corner, half in shadow, half in dawn. And inside it, Mariana lies with her eyes barely open, studying nothing and everything. Newborns usually arrive with soft, undefined expressions, blank slates waiting to imprint the world. But her face already holds a story. The jaw pushes forward just enough to announce its heritage. The lips strain ever so slightly, a subtle tension even in rest. Her features carry the strange mixture of fragility and stubbornness that only centuries of genetic recycling can produce. One of the nurses watches her for a long moment. She has seen enough Habsburg babies to know the signs. The way the little body moves like it's reading old instructions that no longer apply. She sighs and adjusts the blanket, not out of pity, but practice. This family creates children the way clockmakers handle broken gears. Carefully, nervously, and a little too late. A court physician enters the nursery. He clears his throat the way men do when they hope to sound knowledgeable. Mariana stirs, but doesn't cry. He notes that too. He always notes the quiet ones. He lifts her gently. She is light, lighter than expected. Her arms curl inwards. Her head tilts forward, as if even gravity recognizes the legacy in her bones. He whispers something about delicate constitution, a phrase that has followed Habsburg infants for decades. It works for everything. Weak lungs, weak bones, weak futures. He examines her profile again. The jaw, unmistakable. The palate shape, familiar. The bone structure, predictable. He nods slowly. Not impressed, but resigned. Medical science is still centuries away from naming the problem. But even now, in this early morning quiet, The physician knows the truth. A child born from one family too many times over. He sets her back into the cradle. She blinks once, twice, long, deliberate blinks, like an old soul trapped in a newborn's body. He steps away, writes notes, and avoids writing what matters. Doctors in this court always avoid writing what matters. A maid enters with fresh linens. She glances at Mariana, tilts her head, and mutters something in Spanish. It sounds like a prayer, or maybe a warning. The room smells of lavender and warm milk. Somewhere in the distance, a fireplace crackles, fighting the cold that seeps through every inch of the palace. Vienna winters don't forgive easily. Neither do dynasties. Mariana shifts again. Her breath catches. Her fingers curl as if reaching for something she'll never fully grasp. Health, strength, normalcy. Things that come freely to most children, but arrive late, if at all, for the Habsburg heirs. A servant places a small charm above the cradle. These things show up often in royal nurseries, especially in families that fear everything except their own traditions. The charm sways in the cold draft. A tiny clink of metal, a soft reminder that even hope shivers here. Mariana sleeps again. Her chest rises and falls in uneven rhythm. The kind of rhythm that keeps adults awake at night, listening, counting, worrying. A life beginning with shallow breaths rarely enjoys deep ones later. But for now, the room settles. The light grows stronger, and the palace resumes its quiet morning ritual. Footsteps, whispers, fabric brushing stone. Mariana doesn't know it, but her first sunrise carries the weight of a dynasty nearing its mathematical limit. Bloodlines don't warn, they simply reveal. She stirs once more, then sinks back into stillness. A dynasty leans in to inspect its new heir. By late afternoon, the palace begins to shift into that strange rhythm only royal households possess. Half ceremony, half surveillance. The corridors fill with measured footsteps. Robes whisper. Conversation floats in and out like smoke. Everyone pretends they're simply checking in, but their eyes betray the truth. They're inspecting the newest entry in the Habsburg catalogue. A chamberlain steps into the nursery. He pauses, clears his throat, and rehearses a smile that looks painfully diplomatic. He approaches the cradle with the caution of a man approaching a sleeping bear. Not because the baby is dangerous, but because the implications are. He leans down. He studies her profile. He takes in the jawline, the soft slant of her cheeks, the quiet tension in her tiny mouth. There it is again, that blend of recognition and denial. Beautiful child, he whispers to no one. A sentence every royal baby receives, some more honestly than others. He straightens up, satisfied enough to report good signs to the court. His definition of good stretches farther than most people's, but that's the benefit of serving a dynasty that never asks for accuracy. Just loyalty, and occasionally selective eyesight. A little later, two senior ladies in waiting sweep in with the force of decorative hurricanes. They move in layers of silk and perfume, their expressions trained to register delight even before they see the child. It's a skill learned through decades of palace survival. They look down at Mariana. One tilts her head, the other squints. A wintry moment of silence passes between them. Then, like actors hitting their marks, they smile. Identical smiles, rehearsed, polished, crisis-proof. Exquisite, one murmurs. A true Habsburg, the other adds, which is both a compliment and an explanation. They coo over her for several minutes, as if loud admiration might soften the realities sleeping beneath her swaddling cloth. Mariana responds with the same unblinking stare she has given everyone today. It's a look that seems to say, I arrived 10 hours ago. Please lower your expectations. Their visit ends with a flurry of curtsies and fabric. The door closes behind them. Silence returns, awkwardly relieved. Snow continues to fall outside. Small flakes that drift slowly, lazily, as if deciding whether to melt or stay. Inside, the drafts grow colder. The fire struggles. The palace feels old again. A wet nurse arrives. She sits quietly beside the cradle, humming a low tune that travels like warm mist through the room. Her presence is steady, her hands practiced. She has seen royal infants come and go. Some thrive, some fade. She knows not to predict. Mariana stirs beneath the blanket. Her fingers flex. Her brow tightens for a moment, then releases. A brief storm that clears before anyone notices. The wet nurse lifts her gently. The child's weight surprises. Her, light, delicate, almost hollow. She adjusts her hold so the head rests properly. Habsburg babies often need extra support. Their necks arrive before their strength does. Feeding begins slowly, carefully, each swallow an effort. The wet nurse murmurs encouragement in a language the infant cannot understand, but somehow receives. Babies understand tone long before they understand hope. A draft snakes across the floor again. It brushes the nurse's ankles, then climbs up her skirt. She shifts uncomfortably. Cold like this sinks into bone, into history, into things meant to last and things meant to crumble. Mariana finishes. Her breath evens out slightly. Her eyelids droop. The nurse lays her back in the cradle with a tenderness born from repetition more than sentiment. The room holds its breath again. It's a strange habit this palace has, pausing every time the future inhales, as if afraid to disturb it. Evening creeps in, not dramatically, just a slow dimming, a quiet lowering of the world. One of the servants lights another candle. The flame wavers in the cold. It fights. It stays. Mariana sleeps through it all. Her small chest rises and falls. Shallow, uneven, but steady enough. The palace keeps moving around her. Protocol, whispers, footsteps, all the sounds of an empire pretending it isn't worried. Someone closes the shutters with a soft thud. The room darkens again. The cradle becomes a small island of linen and shadow. A dynasty waits. A child dreams. And the evening settles on her like a verdict. Quiet, non-negotiable. A beginning wrapped in uncertainty. The night grows quiet now. The air settles. Your breath softens with it. Far behind us, the palace fades. Its cold stone corridors, its drifting candles, its snow tapping against tall winter windows. All those distant sounds slip back into the century they belong to, like a door closing itself gently. You're here again, in your room, in this softer present. The past folds itself away, careful not to disturb your thoughts as it returns to the dark shelf where old stories sleep. If this journey through dim corridors and whispered histories brought you calm, you're welcome to stay with us a little longer. Tap like if the quiet helped you breathe, share the story if it stayed with you, and subscribe if you want more nights like this, where time slows and history speaks in a low voice by your bedside. Rest easy now. Let the echoes fade. Let the silence take its gentle shape around you. Goodbye, and we will meet again.